Well, praise Jesus today, everyone. I had a quick message that I wanted to share. It was actually a dream that the Holy Spirit gave me while I was waking up early in the morning. And it's about communion, communion with God. Now, when we're speaking about communion, you may think of one or two things. You may think of the Eucharist, the Catholic rite, or the Catholic ritual. Or you may be thinking of the Protestant bread that they pass around in church. But in either case, it's very ornamental. It's very small and insignificant amount of food. It could never fill you up. It's such a small amount that you barely can taste it. And as a child, if you've had communion when you're younger, it leaves you very unsatisfied because you want more grape juice. You want more bread. We know though that communion is supposed to be symbolic, that it represents Jesus's flesh and his blood. And obviously we're not supposed to be fighting when we are taking communion because we're hungry. That's why the Apostle Paul writes, have something before you have communion together. So all of that is understood. But everything that is symbolic symbolizes something. Now, in my dream that I had, I saw a liturgical looking priest or pastor. This person was dressed up kind of how a Catholic priest would be, or how a pastor of a high church would be, with a collar and a hat, like wearing black and white or whatever. So this Catholic priest, or this pastor, was going to give out communion, and he took communion first for himself, and he grabbed the smallest, most minuscule, tiny little piece, the smallest little crumb, and he popped it in his mouth with the most ridiculous expression. And he was setting an example of how people should have communion. But the Holy Spirit told me in the dream that real communion is not ornamental. It's not superficial like this. It's not just symbolic. Real communion is to sustain our very life. It's eating Jesus's flesh and drinking his blood. And if we don't have enough food to actually nourish us, we're going to waste away. We're not going to have enough power to go throughout our day. And many Christians act as though a relationship with God, that is being in communion with God, is just ornamental. It's only for the appearance of men. It's only to be done for 10 minutes or 2 minutes before you go to bed, for 30 seconds or less during breakfast and lunch. And other than that, knowing God is just ornamental. It's just for looks. It's just for appearance. The amount of time that most Christians are spending with God, it's very similar to how the Catholic Church, or the Christian churches for that matter, are taking communion. It's such a small, minuscule amount, it could never nourish even a baby, let alone a full-grown man or woman. How are we in communion with God? How are we communing with Jesus Christ? Are we eating his flesh and drinking his blood? Is he sustaining us? Are you getting the meat of everlasting life from Jesus? Or is your relationship with God purely for looks? Is it superficial? Is it just for people to look at you and think, he's a Christian, he's a good person? What is actually sustaining you? What is the meat that you're eating? Are you really in communion with God? Or is it all fake? May the grace of Jesus be with you.